Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I am well myself and happy to be here once again. And it's summer. As I'm speaking, you'll hear some birds singing. And I just don't know how we go through other seasons, not remembering the vibe of summer. Oh my God. You people, it's lovely. Could you salimia wase hapa? Wase wangu wa YouTube. Mambo kumendaje?
Hi everyone, hi.
Umekaa poa? Ni funny venye tumecommit to sweater.
It was cold in the morning though.
Sema hello to my guys.
Hi guys. Welcome to Mom's YouTube channel. I'll be the one doing the introductions today.
What do I always say? My name? What's my name?
Mom.
Jina yangu ya iti.
It's Mom.
Karibu.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoy the content today. Bye.
Karibu. It will be okay.
Yeah.
So guys, this is it, summer activities, and wow, God is good. So today I'm going to be answering one of our followers. This follower is called Winnie, and she asked, I put up a post on the community about, I think it was Isaiah 54, yeah, and she talked about just how tiring and how hard the journey has been, and that she has been jobless for 13 years. Let me stick this here. Deep in the shadow. So she talked about, yeah, just waiting to get a job for 13 years and just trying different visas, the DV lottery for the US, Canada, UK, you know. And hasn't that been our story? Yeah, the African child's story. And it gets so heated at the place where you are, and you try so much with what you know, with what you have. You try so much and you feel like you're getting so discouraged, yeah? And at the same time, you see other people getting what you're asking for, what you're yearning for. And actually sometimes just the ambition to get this comes from you seeing other people, you seeing it happen for other people, and you're like, this can be easier, so let me try. And you keep trying, and the more you fail, the more you try, yeah? But you know, this question and this comment really affected me, and I felt like I could feel what she's going through and what she's been going through. And that is not even the only thing, yeah? Because I have seen her comments, Winnie's comments, and I know, or rather, I can sense just how heavy things have been, including losing a parent, yeah? So much fire, yeah? Just a lot of fire. And so I've shared my story a lot, and maybe in many pieces, and it might be challenging sometimes to piece it together. So I'm hoping to just do that today and just tell you what the season of waiting for me was like, and what was the hardest thing about that, yeah? And why waiting is necessary, and also why it is so hard, yeah? Now, Winnie, I don't know if you saw the video I did last week about the vision tiring, and the fact that at the onset of that video, of that waiting, of that good thing being planted or beginning, there are tears that, you know, will begin. As the good thing is happening, the tears also are planted, yeah? So when you think of a good thing as a seed, it grows together with the tears, just like in the farm, yeah? And I talked about that because I wanted to encourage people who are waiting, because it is so funny that you could be waiting for one thing, but you get so much drama and you don't understand why it has to be so hard, yeah? But I discovered along the way that when it is not hard, we can relax in a place that's not meant to be, yeah? And I did mention this when I was talking about rejection and why it is so necessary, and why you get rejected sometimes. It's not even because those people have knowledge about you that they should reject you. Sometimes it's how you carry yourself, because when you've gone through something so painful, so traumatic, there's a way you carry yourself that you're sorrowful, you seem to be like a burden, and people can sense that. So they will reject you because people are always looking for help, yeah? Themselves, they are always looking for a person who will come and change their lives, a person who will come and turn things around, a person who, even when they are established, will come and just take this thing that they are doing to the next level. We are all waiting for that, yeah? And some Christians call it a destiny helper. And it's so funny that in my journey, and I know so many other people have seen this, yeah? The kind of destiny helper you're getting, the kind of person who will see you and just put you on a very high level, only appears after you've thoroughly worked on yourself, right? And there's this couple that I got to talk to sometime, and I was very fascinated with their story, that they were, friends for a long time. They started singing together, and when they knew that they were in love, they waited 8 years without doing anything. And then one day the guy was like, this year I have to marry. And he went ahead and proposed to the lady on TV, And when he did that, somebody just volunteered to do for them a wedding, to plan their wedding and cater for everything, yeah? And she didn't even have money. So you can see, even the people sometimes God sends to help you, they will not be so empowered that you will think, how will they even help, yeah? But it is at the level where you are, God is still using this person to connect you in so many ways, yeah? So I'm saying this to say, sometimes we are expecting a heavy, a heavy setter, yeah? A big wig. But what God sends is help from the most unlikely places. And think about Elijah. I love that example because the widow was down to one last portion of flour. And when Elijah came, he asked for bread. And she said, I swear to you, I have only just this much to give. And so if I give you, this was supposed to make a meal for my son and I, and then we die. So if I give you this, we are practically going to die. But if you say to do this, I will do it, yeah? And so she was waiting to die, but instead she had a year's supply of flour. So much so that by the time Elijah was leaving her abode, he was going to announce the rain, yeah, to King Ahab. So I'm saying all this to say that in the lowly places that you are, God is sending you help. And sometimes you are the help that you need, yeah? I'm saying this, I'm saying this to mean that there are talents and gifts that God has given us. And whenever you see that you're not getting a job, sometimes you're supposed to go inwards, yeah? And not outwards to seek that help, yeah? And I don't want to come from a place of advising, because you have survived those 13 years. So much has been required of you as far as I can tell, yeah? And it's so many people that survive day to day struggling, and that struggle gives you so much pain, so much so that you do not know that you're moving in your power. There's so much that you're doing that you couldn't otherwise do if it was coming easily, yeah? There are lessons that you're learning that you would never have learned otherwise. I'm not saying it should be that hard, yeah? I always say that nobody should go through that much pain, that much frustration, that much agitation, Things could ideally flow, but there's a reason why they're not flowing. And that is why I've said from the very beginning, when you see that things are not working okay, what do you what have you learned so far in your life? Yeah, for me, I said I've always looked into my family, like, what's the problem here? What is going on? Yeah, what is disturbing this family? Because I grew up with my grandmother, saw her very frustrated, saw her in pain a lot of times, saw her very sad, you know. And I saw other things in my family, like my aunts, my mom, you know, and I would always question that, like, why is this not, you know, the way I think it should be? And I was a child, yeah, and, you know, I wasn't comparing with other homes. I just knew in my heart that this was not right, yeah. And there's things that would be said that would fall on my ears, and I would question, is this it, yeah? Things like, they would talk about curses, so and so was cursed and all that, and I would wonder, are we under a curse? You know, not like with that much clarity, but I always wondered what was up. And so when it came my turn now to be in that playing field, yeah, when you're an adult, and you know, it's like a lot of these things manifest during marriage, yeah. So it's like marriage is where you discover yourself, and you see, because you're trying to pull from what you know, yeah, from whatever is inside, from your background. That is where you're taking the examples, yeah, and wanting to implement everything that you've learned. And as you get babies, yeah, you want to do what you saw being done. And then even as your, you know, cycle widens and you meet other people, you see how they're doing things, and you wonder how come yours is different and all that. You're learning, you're growing, yeah. And there are some things that are so natural, like your kind of naturance and all that, yeah. But as we widen our circle, sometimes you even feel like you're not doing things right, you know, and some things you're just a natural at, yeah. So there's that, but there's always also that part where you reach and you're feeling very frustrated. I'm saying marriage is where you go through these things that make you dig into your past, but there are other things too that do that, yeah. Like if you're a young graduate and you're not getting a job, you're frustrated about that, and you're wondering, why is it so hard for me? Is it because I don't know anyone? Is it because I don't have tall relatives and all that, yeah? So a lot happens, but there's that thing in your heart that it's like it's calling you to investigate what the problem is. And the Bible says that many are called, but few are chosen. And this means that all these people are, you know, supposed to gain from the Father, yeah. They're supposed to be drawn to the Father to do this amazing work. And so many people will do it easily, but there are people who are chosen to just do a particular work, and mostly it's very difficult work, the spiritual battles and wars, yeah. So many times people want to say that I'm the chosen one, but being chosen means there's a battle that God is inviting you to fight, yeah. And people who have fought family battles, and you know, when you're coming in, it's not something you choose, yeah. When you're coming in, of course you're chosen, just like Joseph, yeah. And your uniqueness will make the journey difficult for you, because there'll be things that you're saying, there'll be things that you know, and the things that you're saying are so unlike who you are and the position that you hold in the family. Because think like when Joseph was saying, Sijui, we went to the farm, we harvested, and we were putting our sheaves together, and my sheaf stood firm and straight, but yours bowed to mine. It was so irritating to his brothers and even to his father when he heard that, yeah. And they ended up translating his dreams, yeah. And I remember many times I would just so annoy my mom and my aunts. I would visit them and just be like, in the most unlikely circumstances, I'm going to be so rich. I used to say, I want to be so rich, just bless me. And that was so annoying, because why are we talking about that, yeah? Anyway, it was so funny. The other day, my mom sent me this video where the guy is saying, in every family, there's a daughter who has her dad's temper, her mom's attitude, her grandmother's looks, and she wants to be a millionaire, right? So it is later that people come to understand who you are and what you're agitating for and why you need it, and you know, that makes you very unique and sometimes very confusing. The child that is like that in my family, I just had a conversation with him right now, and I was like, dude, how is it you just don't do this instead of this? Yeah. And we really laughed about it because after all the attitude, after showing me all my attitude, yeah, he's been coming down for some reason. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, because we're just getting used to you being this much, this extra. Yeah. But he's such a delight and such a gift, and I'm glad to see that, because I could otherwise have been fighting that had I not seen the journey. So just to finish on that portion, I want to say, for you to wait 13 years without a job means that you want to be employed, yeah? But as you're waiting, there are gifts and talents that God gives us that we may survive, yeah? And these gifts are the ones that sometimes when they don't work out, they make us agitate so much for more, for what is outside there, yeah? And for me, that gift was always cooking and baking, yeah? And I didn't get to go to school early because I always used to say I'll be a writer, yeah? And so I didn't focus on that. I would cook well because I wanted good food. I wanted my food to taste so good, yeah? But I used to write all the time. Like, my time was divided between reading and writing. And because I was practically a hermit, I loved being on my own. I just loved to explore that side of writing. I thought I would be a writer for sure. After all, trying all those other things, where there's a time I thought I would be a lawyer, and because I met my mom-in-law early, we were like neighbors, yeah? And one time I had visited their house, and as we were talking, she said, no, don't be a lawyer. And this is one lady, because she's very well established as a matriarch, she has a voice, yeah? She's one person that if she says something, you will rethink that. You know, you will rethink your choices, because you'll be like, if she doesn't think I can be a lawyer, with everything that she has done, you know, with her life and her wisdom, then that is something I should really think about, yeah? But I had all these other gifts. I was a jack of all trades, and that is very frustrating sometimes when one doesn't stand out, yeah? And if you know my journey, you would know that I've struggled with all these things, because I'm always just doing what, or rather I have always done things hoping that, you know, whatever succeeds is what I will pursue, yeah? And it can be so frustrating when you're using your gifts and talents and it doesn't just, you know, work. And it's only so much later that you realize that you could pick a thing and just work on it, be consistent, fight for it, you know, go through the most, and it works, yeah? Because everything is about seeding and harvesting, and everything also is about going through a process, yeah? But it can also be very difficult when you're a jack of many trades, one, and two, whatever you're trying is not giving, yeah, at the level you are. That is what causes the most frustration, because if we could just be successful where we are, and we have, you know, we are focused, we have that vision, and you know, we are just following it, even when it is small, we see it giving day by day, we would settle, yeah? We would settle where we are and build a thing. But all this agitation comes from the fact that it's not giving, yeah? You try this, it's not working, you know? And for me, I think I found food and cake to be the thing, because when I got married, you know, when you get married, you want to please your husband, and that's where you get, like, even though I had that at home, still, when you have somebody to cook for, you'll get so creative, yeah? And so as I was doing all these things, my husband was like, you should really go into this thing. But you know, all that time, I was practicing, and I even joined college when I was married to pursue. I wanted to be a chef, basically, until I met a teacher there that was like, no, don't be a chef, don't work in the hotels because you're already married and all that, be a teacher. She could see a teacher in me, yeah? Teacher Maureen, she's my love. So yeah, I was listening because I was doing my journey. a bit late, yeah. So I would listen, and I would and I could see that even my teacher was, you know, successful and very good at what she was doing, even though she was just beginning, yeah. So there was all that, yeah. And so still you can see it is confusing, because when my husband first went to Canada, after 2 years he visited, and what did he bring me? A laptop, because he said I could still be a writer. He said that he could see that in me, and that is when, like, I think I discovered Facebook after him going away, and I would write these articles, yeah, always just pouring out my creativity, just throwing, you know, seeds all over, yeah. Just what I had inside, I always just used to put it out there, yeah. And so this brings me to my journey, and I'm hopeful that this will help. Otherwise, there's no need of putting it out there, yeah. So, as I think I have told a lot about my story, and Winnie specifically asked, oh, how did you manage being denied a visa 3 times, and finally, you know, now living in the US, yeah? And you can imagine, we were going to Canada, and then now we are living in the US. And I have to say, full disclosure, I wasn't just waiting, you know? It wasn't just me waiting and trying, yeah, because it is in the journey that I learned all the things that I should learn. I learned how to, you know, like, just I learned that there's a whole website where you could get all the information, how the Canadian visa works. And I'm telling you, when you get into that website, you feel like everything is possible, yeah? How to go into Canada, how to visit, how to extend your visit. And I think that is what we thought, you know, would be so easy to do. And then you start now being denied, especially after seeing your husband being given this easily, and you forget that, you know, it can happen. And at that moment when you're being denied, it feels like rejection, so much so that you don't think that you as a person has another purpose. And at that time, you do not know that one day you will join, you know, the person that you're following, yeah. And for me, it was tricky, because in my family, yeah, my grandma, who I grew up seeing so much sadness in, although we had our little moments that we would joke, and she loved tickling us to a point where I don't like being tickled now, because we would, the only word I'm thinking is Swahili, tungekauka. You know, she would tickle us, we laugh until we just get, I don't know what that is, yeah. So we had our moments, we knew her, we saw her, so we were able to tell when she's sad, when she's frustrated, and all that, yeah. She was a whole movie for us to see. And even though sometimes we wished that things could be different, I now know how much God wanted me to see, yeah, into my background, so that I could attempt to make the future different, yeah. And so now I don't have an apology for the way I roll, yeah, because I understand my purpose, and I didn't know it then, yeah. For me, the focus was only to follow my husband. And then later in the journey, I think after the second denial, yeah, I was living at the last place. After the second denial, we moved from my house in Huruma, and we went to a place in Ruaraka. Kenyans would know the place, yeah. So as I was there, I felt a fear enter me, yeah, when the challenges got, you know, bigger. And one thing I'm saying that made the waiting easier was that for me, there were 2 things I was waiting on to be a success, to become a success in this cake thing that I had already started in the previous place that I was living. Actually, I started my baking journey a long time, but it started like a joke, yeah. But it was a thing to do, and I would notice everywhere I go, people, when they learned that I'm a baker, they would ask for a cake, and they didn't even care that it was not very well decorated. I see this thing with people who do hair, you know, who work with their hands. Wherever they go, people will offer them, you know, a job, yeah. Like, there's always a need for those things. And people who cook, people will always be drawn to you. And so as I was growing in my journey, I could see that people needed that. People kept coming, and granted, like, people, I developed that more in church, yeah, because people would come to me for wedding cakes. I would make horrendous wedding cakes. They didn't look good, and I was still developing my recipes, but yeah, they gave me the chance, yeah. So had I succeeded greatly as much as I wanted in Kenya, I would have stayed for sure. Because ahead, when we were denied the third visa, I was like, you know what, I am staying in this place, and that is the time I decided to expand, yeah. So the question was, how did you manage? It was because I was doing something, yeah. And I had this thought that maybe I may never venture into Canada. As much as it was a good idea, as much as we wanted to give our kids, you know, a different education system that we could afford, yeah, because the whole time that we were in Kenya, my husband was a student. So you can imagine it was challenging in many ways, yeah. And being in the academia, the money is tricky, right? So there's a whole crowd of people who are not fascinated by money. They are fascinated by research and you know, just finding results, yeah. And of course, being a capitalist world, there are people who capitalize on that, yeah. So as a researcher, you'll get, you know, just so much, yeah. And so it's, of course, we changed levels of living. We changed, but I was always hoping to succeed on my own, yeah, and do become, you know, like a great baker, have outlets, like do it as a big business. That was my goal, yeah. And there was a point that it felt like I had reached that point. I was doing these cakes as I was raising my family, and actually when we moved to Ruaraka, which is the last place we lived before I left Kenya, I met another baker, yeah. So we were sharing notes. I learned a lot from her. She learned a lot from me, you know. And we were establishing so much so that, you know, like Habi, when he came from abroad, he would bring all these cake tools, yeah, that he would easily access. All those things that fascinate us, we see in magazine, because we always believe that it's bigger here, it's better, you know. But there was also those shops that were coming up that had all the tools, yeah. So because we were self-trained, we could learn, you know, from others, learn on YouTube how to use different tools. And so I was getting so confident. And one thing with me, when I know that there's a vision, I will run with it, you know. I'm confident when I'm starting, yeah. And that is not a good thing, because when the going gets tough, I can give up easily. And being a person who grew up with all these things that I'm saying, so many things I could do, but not being able to perfect, because I wanted to learn what will work out so that I run with it, yeah. And for a long time, I just couldn't see. So as the baking was, you know, getting more and more established, this Canadian dream was now being only carried by Habi, because in 2014 when we were denied the visa, the third visa, I was like, dude, let me just open a shop. Let me just focus on this. Let me become a success, yeah, here. And if you ever want to come back, this is what I'll be doing. I'll be here, yeah. And so I went full force into that, and you know, I was becoming, I would say, a little more successful. I was, you know, hitting the goals that, the goals and milestones that I wanted to. But I'll tell you one thing at this point, yeah. I had discovered some weapons that were fashioned against me. I realized that whenever I did something, it would be met with so many weapons, yeah. I would be fought in everything that I was doing, be it baking, be it marriage, you know, be it raising kids, just family situations being weird, yeah. I would be fought on all angles, yeah. And because I knew that there was a lot of fight surrounding me, even though I didn't have much clarity, but I can tell you, along the way, whenever I met with God's people, they would say some things, yeah. They would just they would point out some things, and that would leave me investigating. And I'm saying this because the tares, you know, and the wheat growing together hand in hand, yeah. And I'm a happy person, and you realize I'm like my grandma. Whenever I come here, I will smile with you. You won't know that something is going on, yeah. But I would hit really rock bottom when it comes to, you know, being sad. I would get so frustrated. I would get so, because of these wars, yeah. So much so that when I was opening my shop in Ruaraka, and I can tell you, there was a time I was looking for a shop, but it was not the right time, yeah. I saw that particular shop, and they were building that building, and I talked to the guy that was, I think the caretaker or somebody, and he told me there's no way that shop can be rented then because they're using it as the store. I think, like 2 years is when I would find the store, you know, for rent. And I remember when the guy said yes, that yes, you can rent this place, it was perfect for me. I lay on the ground in that dust because it hadn't been rented for a long time, yeah. Because I had seen the war that, you know, follows me, yeah. And the weapons and the challenges, just that seemed very unique to me. I lay on that floor and I prayed to God that I would be a success in that business, in that area, that I would find favor with my neighbors, because that had not been a thing with me, yeah. I had struggled. Let me tell you, I'm the kind of person who appears somewhere and I get rejected by everyone, yeah. At least that used to be the case at some point, yeah. Because I didn't know who to roll with, you know, I would just accept anyone, yeah. And it is in the journey that I have learned, yeah, that I'm called for a unique purpose, and I cannot just be with everyone. So when they reject me, I'm like, good, at least you've seen that, you know, we can't gel. Sometimes I see that, you know, I accept it from them, and sometimes I give it. Sometimes I will know that this is not my place and I will run. So in that place, I was feeling like, this is just it. I'm loving my neighbors. I'm loving everything, you know, just from observation. But I had already decided I'm taking this shop, yeah. So I was always doing this cake journey. So I knelt there and I prayed. This is 2015, yeah, because it's towards the end of 2014 that we had applied the visa, and then in January of 2014 we were rejected, yeah. And that's the long and short of it. And this one, it's actually hubby who had applied from Canada, and yeah, we didn't get it. And it was very hard, especially on him, because he kept trying so much, because he wanted for us to be there, you know, and it was difficult. He was seeing all these kids there, you know, and he's a kids lover. He would work with kids, and the hardest thing for him was like, Kenny, my kids are not here, why? You know, so that was his petition to God. And you know, it was the third time we were denied, and the second time we were denied, it had seemed like it would be so possible because I got accepted into his school, yeah. But that was not to be. But you know, in our circumstances, it was hard to think that God is working. But I can tell you, there were miracles, there were signs, there were wonders, you know, there were things that would just alert me to that God was doing something and that we were heading somewhere. But whether this could be the cake thing or the Canadian thing, we didn't know, you know. And at this point, we were strained ourselves because this thing had taken a toll on us, yeah. And this is 2014. We are going to live in 2017. So you can see that it was getting harder. You know, the steps that we were making, as we were making these steps, it was getting harder. But as it was getting harder, it was good. It was at the best point where we could be, yeah. It was at the best point we could be, because the tears again, yeah. Whenever the devil tries to play tricks and gimmicks, yeah. Whenever people see a light in you and they try to snuff it. I'm saying that because when there's a delay, there's probably things that are happening that are spiritual, yeah. Some spiritual delays, some spells, you know, some crazy things that are happening, yeah. So weapons will be fashioned in many times, yeah, many times. And I remember when I opened my shop, and at first it was very slow. Yeah, it was very slow, but that is the only thing I had to do, just that and my kids. Yeah, so there was that, just slowness, and slowness I had known. It's the success I hadn't gotten accustomed to. Yeah, so 2015 in the beginning, and I opened my shop. I sort of launched it, yeah, and because I had worked a journey with some people on Facebook, we launched the shop and we welcomed these people. They, at least they knew now we have a base. They could come there, they could get a cake anytime, yeah. And then I think our success came from joining up with Rupu. There was a company called Rupu that would market your goods on their site, yeah, at a discounted price. So we would sell almost at half the amount, but more, yeah. In the time that your promotion would be running, it would be like a month, yeah. And if it was 2 weeks, and if your product does well, they would extend it, yeah. So we would get these consolidated checks, and those helped, yeah. So that was like mid 2015, but at first it was very slow, and then it started rising like that. You know, I got confident in the things that I was doing. I got very tight with my suppliers, and I always say it's funny, a lot of people don't relate with this, but I used to buy from Naivas because it was in the lane in front of us, yeah. So we got very tight. They could see what I am doing. They would offer to carry our goods, you know, and they even offered me a credit facility. I was getting very tight with my bank, and they were like, now you should buy a car. You know, we were growing, yeah, my girls and I. And we reached a point where I could see the vision just coming to fruition. And whenever I talk to the husband, what would I say? I am not coming, you know. Canada had lost its allure completely. And even though it is something that had held so much light for me, I'm thinking, Canada, it sounds so good, yeah? I really wanted to be there. I really wanted to walk those streets that I could see from the photos, you know? I really wanted to see those places, yeah? And I didn't know that it was God's plan, even though every time we were denied our visas, I could see the dream, yeah? I could see, like, it's like I'm bearing a baby, and it was different stages of pregnancy, or sometimes bearing a child that is hardly able to walk. Please refer to the video I did. I hope I'm able to put the clip like towards the end so you can click on it, yeah? So yeah, there was that. There was always something spiritual, and I was getting very spiritual at this stage, yeah, just recognizing the spiritual things that were happening in my life. But physically, my focus was on building this bakery and making it big. You guys, I really wanted to be a success, because if I knew if I'm a success, I would make my husband proud. I would make myself proud, you know. I would be, that's Proverbs 31 woman. I would be established, you know. I would reach the point where I could just, you know, make decisions, run with it, yeah. I would expand. I would expand my, you know. And let me tell you, this shop is coming right after I gave a man of God, while I was still working in the house, I offered a man of God a cake, yeah. And he is the one who introduced me to Isaiah 54. If you're in the community, I'm sure you've seen that post. And when I gave him that cake, he told me this offer just comes at a very good time because we are opening our church. And he came to visit me in the house, and he was like, you know what? I come with this scripture, Isaiah 54:2. And he said, expand your tents, you know, strengthen your cords and all that. For me, what did that symbolize? That my business is going to grow stronger and bigger, you know, at the time. Now, at that point, I hadn't started, but now that is the vision that came to my mind, you know. And at that point where he was visiting, it was mid 2013. I had not seen fire, you know. No, I had begun to see fire, you know. So even in my reaching out, I was like reaching out to people I had seen before, you know, men of God who had come to preach in my church, and I made their acquaintance. So I was like, just reaching out, yeah. And so when this guy gave me that prophecy, I was more focused on the bakery. Now, was I heartbroken thinking that I will never make it to Canada because this thing is actually coming to fruition? As far as I could tell, it was the only constant thing in my life that seemed to be working, yeah? So, but I would be very heartbroken. Every time the idea came, I would be very heartbroken that it didn't, mature. And so 2013, when things got very hard is when I met this person and he introduced that chapter to me, Isaiah 54. And I would apply it many times. Like there's just one time, after a long period, I opened the Bible in Isaiah 54. Because as much as we were church goers, we knew about church programs and how things ran. I was teaching Sunday school. I had no knowledge of the Bible, So this was the genesis of it. And so I started exploring this. And because now my son was a teenager and all that, I see this thing about expanding your tents and all that. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this with my business. But there was always this thing that was bugging me, yeah. And I would be sharing with my husband all the time. Like, I don't like how, Mike is growing. I don't like his school. I don't like the influence around him. You talk to him and all that. And I'm telling you, when a parent is far away, disciplining the kids will not be on the agenda. They want to love on their kids. They want to, pamper them. They want to, and, when they're coming with all these gifts, some that, like computers and all that. These are gadgets that your kids will want to spend all their times on, yeah? And so I felt like I would speak and they would not hear me. I was frustrated as far as parenting went, yeah? Even though many people would admire me and say, hey, you're really trying with 3 boys, yeah? So I always felt encouraged in that arena. And let me tell you, when you find in your heart to praise someone or compliment someone on what they're doing, please do it, because those words could be the only thing that keeps them going, yeah? So I felt good about my parenting and just the decisions I would make about that. That was very important to me. And I'm sure to you, Winnie, and so many other people who are watching, there's times you want to know that you're doing okay, yeah? So when things were really tough, I found this chapter that seemed to cover everything that I was going through. And the most important thing was saying that even though I've gone through all these things as a woman, God would be able to restore me, yeah? And so I held on to that. And for me, the bakery would seem like the thing that would restore me, strengthen me, give me the power and the millions that I needed. I was willing to work to the bone, yeah? And in all these times that even the bakery was growing while I was in the house, I felt like I had neglected my kids in a way, especially one, the one that I'm talking about that has my attitude. He could never do those bakery stuff, yeah? But the baby found a way to, he's just like that. He's that kind of a character. He would come and just, start, working with fondant, see what I'm making, try and make it. So that is the way we would just, try and draw closer, Sometimes I would get very, very good help, even though that was a challenge sometimes, yeah? Yeah, so I was growing in that aspect. And, finally now coming to this shop, grew very fast. Like the goals I had to accomplish in 6 months, I had written down, I accomplished in 3 months. All the time, there was war. Even in that place of business, there was just so many complications that I couldn't understand, yeah? There were times I could even be reported to the landlord that I made changes in the rooms, in the workshop, and he could come, he was a certain type of person, very combative, and he would come and see that I didn't make a mistake. And one time he was like, you know what? I find it interesting how people are attacking you. And he told me all the things that people had done. And there was this person who would come and park in front of my shop, yeah? So just the wars I'm telling you about. And he had to beg and pay this person to be parking his car elsewhere, because he claimed that he parks the car there because it is spoiled. He begged him that he would pay him to have it at the mechanics, yeah? And I was looking at like a crazy person, just fighting with this person. Don't park in front of my shop. I think it's obvious, And there was just so much tug, and pull, just crazy things happening. But I could see the vision. And the vision that I had in the year 2016 would be that I would expand. I would have like so many outlets, you know, just selling cakes, but we would have this workshop. Our workshop was like a 2-bedroomed house that we had set with just, you know, workstations, and I was running at a higher speed than you know the customers we had. I just wanted to reach out so that if we have more outlets, our production would make sense. I would be able to pay my workers, because you know, workers sometimes don't really understand what you have to go through to be established. Yeah, so many challenges, and now it reached a point where yes, you have to pay your suppliers. You're doing production, things are not moving. In 2016 it was tricky like that. I even had an accident, you know, and yeah, I had fought so much, so many spiritual battles, so many physical battles, because I'm not saying that all were spiritual. And I realized that there was a pattern that whenever I came to a good thing, there would be so much war. You know, like, it didn't even make sense, you know. And I would be like, I'm a generous person, you know. Whoever is coming against, who is not benefiting from me, you know. I would try to make, you know, good relations with my neighbors. And you see, a bakery, if you're working with a bakery, you will always benefit, you know, because if it's eggs, you're buying in bulk, like you're taking even more than they can supply to you, you know. Just so many things that you keep buying, just like any other production house. But there was war. Every time that I got into a good thing, there was war. But I realized this one thing with God, yeah. Whenever the devil raised havoc in my life, the Lord would raise a standard. And I saw it practically, because somebody would war me, you know, to a point where they would cast spells. You know, the way people go to a gangas and do things, they would cast spells to have me fall or fail or lose or be separated or just a lot of stuff, yeah. But whenever that happened, the Lord would raise a standard, and this is how he would do it. I would get so afraid, so anxious, so much so that, let me tell you, I know that if you watch this, it's not a secret, and there are things I don't like hiding, yeah. I have a nerve problem, and you can see it, and I've seen it's a lot of women, and my heart just goes out to them, yeah. People who have cried a lot and gone through spiritual wars, because you know, spiritual war, you can't say I'm fighting this, you know. There are people who are fighting you in secret. You cry so much, you get so frustrated, and it affects your body, yeah. And that is why the Lord says to rejoice and have trust in him. But before we build that kind of trust, that kind of, you know, faith, that strong faith, there are many times that the Lord will let you just go. He will be quiet, yeah, just to see if you believe you believe in him. And you, when you find challenges, what are you doing? Because all these challenges, they're not caused by God, you know. One day you will look at your face and you see it just falling apart because of all the crying and sadness you've gone through, you know. All these frown lines. God wants you to be beautiful. He wants you to take care of yourself. He wants you to be focused on yourself, you know, because when you love yourself, it's like loving him. You're loving the God in him, you know, the God in you, yeah, because there's a huge part of himself in you, and that's very important for me to say, yeah. So when I see this, I'm like, I can't even blame you, God, you know. You develop issues that, you know, because you just won't trust, you just won't believe, because you do not know what he said, yeah. If you knew what God said, and if you stood on it, you would surely succeed, yeah. So I'm saying this because I know a lot of women cry, I know a lot of women panic, and that panic is not good. But that panic, sometimes it is caused by all these tears that, you know, have been growing in your life, yeah. But the good thing about this panic, you know, and all this fear, is that it sends you on your knees. When you realize that your problems are not solvable by other people, and God will make it so that no matter who is surrounding you, they cannot help you, you know. So you have to come to him. And when you come to him, he installs you with all this, yeah, power, love, And that is how you even now become so confident that you do not fear, you know. You learn to let go of things, yeah. You learn, you know, the way we love our children and even our spouses to a point where we become controlling, yeah. We want them to do the things we want to do because we feel like our way is right. And if they follow that way, they will never be lost. Because women especially, we make so many mistakes in our endeavor to run and try to make it, yeah. But you realize that your way is not always right, yeah? And only God can help you through. And when you are able to reach that point where even when things are against you, you can laugh, you know? You can laugh and be like, I'm going to the salon. You know, when my nails are pretty, I feel good. When when I've had a massage, I feel good. Funny thing, I've never had a massage in my life. I'm still just a shags mondo, but I love having facials, and it feels good, yeah. God wants us to take care of ourselves, to take care of business, even when things are hard, because He knows the tears will be planted by the enemy while you're sleeping. Because when things are good, we sleep. We forget that there is a work to be done. You know, there's a devil to cast away. There is wars to be fought, you know. And when things are tough, like for me, I used to think about, like I mentioned, I saw my grandmother sad. And one thing that I had learned in my childhood is that my grandfather went away to war, the emergency war, to which I have a grudge to this day because I never met him. And my grandma would speak great things about this man, yeah. And she would always say, I belong to the so and so, you know. So she built up this image of this great man that went away. Now I married a great man, yeah, amazing man. And so it reached a point, yeah, during that 2013 fiasco, I was happy and then I was not. I could see things going south, you know. And this is also a point where I had reached a good place, yeah. I felt like me and my kids were at a good place in terms of where we were living. It felt safer, you know, and we wanted to grow into that, yeah. Just doing life, you know, just wanting to establish ourselves. It was always a goal, yeah, wanting to do something that would cause all the people in my life to be proud, right? But yeah, the tears were planted, the spells were cast, so much craziness was happening. I remember that story of my grandma, and it came with fear and anxiety. And I was like, I saw my grandma waiting for a long time for her husband to come back. And let me tell you, the fire that rose in me, especially after that way towards 2014, there was a bit of waiting. There's no work, you know, things are silent, and it's another season of waiting for the visa. And every time we were waiting for that visa, no matter how long or short time it took, I would be depressed. I would feel myself entering like I'm going through a door into depression. I would be so depressed. So this thing that you're asking, Winnie, like how was the waiting like? It was a lot of things. It was a lot of activity. It was a lot of worry, sometimes total fear that I would be like a possessed person, you know? I would be so afraid. I would be so confused. I would be so frustrated sometimes, yeah? And then the sun would shine again, you know? There would be things happening that were good in my business, things that were happening that were good with my kids, you know. There was that struggle. If the school is good enough for my kids, you know. There's a time we even took them to a school and these kids would be beaten, especially my middle child, and I hated that for them. That would cause me so much sorrow, you know. There was always war with everything that we did, but that war was good. And that's why I always say it was good I was afflicted, that I may learn your decrees, Lord, yeah. That is what David said. So my grandpa went away and never came back, and I was like, that can never be me. You know. And let me tell you the good thing about, and you know, it's a process even to reach to a place where you discover some things. This is a pattern attempting to arise, yeah? Because these delays and these wars that we fight are not unusual, you know? There's a pattern, and sometimes they have their genesis in the spiritual, you know? There's somebody who is seeing you doing well and they decide, nope, you're not going there, you know? And so, you see, at that point, there's a point I was like, if this business succeeds, I let go of everything. And if my husband comes back, good. He will find a very well-established woman, a woman who has expanded, like I was told by Pasi, to expand, you know, who has strengthened her cords and everything is good. You know, I'm a mom even to other kids, because at this point, in 2015, as my business, actually even before 2014, when I could touch some money here and there, I was taking care of some kids in the orphanage and all that. You know, I was doing the things that we are you know, socialized to do, yeah, taking care of orphans. There's an orphanage we've always visited since we were like 19 in the neighborhoods, yeah. The people we grew together, we used to call ourselves United Neighbors. We would do that, yeah. So there was all that charity work, charity, you know, raising the family and all that, just the usual that I'm sure that you guys are doing even now, yeah. But this Canadian thing was humbling me, and at some point I wanted to be in control. I wanted to get over it, yeah. So as my business was succeeding, I was like, this is it. Canada will never humble me again, right? So in 2015, even hubby visited, and I was like, he was like, are you sure this is what you want? You want to just get into this completely and forget about Canada? And I was like, yeah, you know, if this succeeds, then I'll be able to, you know, hold things down on this side, yeah, and you can do your thing. And he was like, I'm still not settled. I want the kids abroad, yeah. And you know, the thing about a man being given a vision is like Abraham, yeah. He will not be able to let it go, because you may get all these Ishmaels and you're like, this is good too, as a Sarah, but the Lord is like, nope. So if he put a vision in my husband that this, you know, he wanted us, his generation, to go abroad, there was no changing it in this man, you know. And as our bridge to this side, I think he was very concerned that if I settle, you know, and you know, the kids also would have to stay where I am, you know, as a people in agreement. Yeah, that seems just like the, you know, the common sense thing to do, you know. And school was expensive, but you know, it's not as expensive when you're you know, paying from somewhere else, yeah. I mean in dollars, yeah. So it's always higher than the shilling. So, and I was holding things down in whatever way I could, but the vision was for us to come, and we know that now, yeah. But I am saying all this to tell you that, yeah, the journey was not easy, and God knew because God always knows us. The way I had set up my workshop, the way I was setting things and the vision I had, I would not have gone, you know. So it took God's hand, and it took that business failing, yeah. Things worked in, although that is self-blame, yeah, and we carry a lot of guilt in the things we do. And I felt like maybe I ran too fast, maybe I did things in ways I shouldn't have, maybe I should have grown slower. But I'm telling you, when a chance comes, there's no way you won't run with it, you know. I remember just thinking, like when I was taking a car, will I be able to manage? But these are the times I was getting a check, you know, from Rupu. And 2016 comes, Rupu begins to fail, to decline, and ultimately close. I think the guy sold the business, you know, so we didn't have those big checks anymore. And yeah, we were struggling. And you see, we began to struggle before we even reached our momentum, you know, that place where like the vision was in 2016 that we would expand to other estates, you know. And I had even started, you know, looking for tiny shops that we would use as outlets, you know, the kind of shops where you have just the fridge and the outlet, so we're just selling cakes and then, you know, just busy making them in the workshop. And you know, you see, I had bought a car to facilitate all that, but to God, he was building me up, so we would use these things, you know, as assets to sell when the time came. And when the time came, these things, everything that I had was bought so easily. I think in a matter of a month we had sold everything we had, yeah, just to get the money to help us relocate. So that is how I did. And so it was success, failure, success, failure, lots of challenges, but I always say it was good that I was afflicted, because looking back I see God's hand. And that's why I always say, go through what you're going through now, because there will be an explanation up ahead. Yeah, God will show you why things had to work the way they did. So I hope this was a word of encouragement, and I hope it has helped you. And I always say, yeah, wherever you are, if you're able to identify talents and gifts that you can use, that will help you on your day-to-day, that will keep you busy, because when you're not busy, I'm sorry, summer comes with also all these allergies and stuff. Yeah, so when you're not busy, the devil will take advantage. Yeah, and sometimes even when you get busy, even when you're growing, you want to be a success, people will send you that, you know, people will be sent to you that look like friends, but they're out to finish you, you know. But it's okay, because whenever weapons are fashioned, you know, they will not prosper. Yeah, and every time that rises against you, you can refute. All these things, all these curse words that are thrown at you, they may be thrown and they may affect you in some ways, but you'll be able, when you know when you get knowledge, you'll be able to have words to counter that. Yeah, because our words are life and death. Yeah, and sometimes along the way you will catch the thief that is always stealing from you. Yeah, and you know God will help you, because the Bible says in Proverbs, I think 6:30, nobody condemns or blames the thief who is stealing to feed their stomach. Yeah, but when he is caught, he will be made to pay 7 times over, even if it takes all he has. Yeah, and you know, we use this as an example, that whenever the devil is stealing from you, time and time again, causes you to delay, causes you, you know, all these frustrations and pain and fear. When you know, according to Proverbs 11:9, though the hypocrite will condemn you. I'm paraphrasing, I wish I could say it clearly. But though the hypocrite or the hypocritical neighbor attacks you and curses you, through knowledge shall you escape. So you guys keep on getting the knowledge, and God will see you through this. Yeah, and you'll be like, okay, now that I understand my path is not meant to be as easy as somebody else, it was good that I was afflicted, so that I may know in my own way I'm very special, I'm chosen to do this. Yeah, and God will bless me whenever I come into agreement with him and fight this battle with him, or he fights for me while I'm in agreement. I have agreed to take this path. I have agreed to take the stones. Yeah, I have agreed to suffer like this, because the ultimate joy will even set so many free. Yeah, so yeah, that's what's up. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope this has been helpful. I hope to get some feedback from you guys. And here is Samo. God bless you. God shine his face upon you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn